Hello, beautiful people. So, welcome to Libra season. Yesterday we experienced Equinox. Today is Sunday, the 24th. So, Sun is now in the sign of Libra. And this is your astrological forecast for next week, which will be predominantly focused on the upcoming lunation, and that is the full moon in Aries. So, let's dive in. So today, on the day when I'm recording this video, which is Sunday the 24th, we are actually experiencing the exact opposition between Mars and Chiron, and Mars is actually the ruler of Chiron. And as I mentioned in my previous astrological forecast, what is interesting about this aspect is that yesterday Venus, the current ruler of Mars, because Mars is still in a sign of Libra, actually made a trine to Chiron, which was the trine number 3. So Venus now is direct. She has been direct since September 4th, and she has information she didn't have before because she was in a retrograde mode for about 6-7 weeks. And yeah, now Venus is trining Chiron, like yesterday she did, and passed on the information. There was some exchange. Now Chiron has this information, and now there is an opposition between Mars and Chiron, telling us what needs a point of integration, what needs healing, what needs adjusting. Mars, of course, is in the sign of Libra. As we know, Mars is in a closing, culminating phase with the South Node. The exact conjunction is going to happen on October 4th. So there is a lot of stuff happening. Also, as we get to the full moon in Aries, when I start talking about all these aspects more in depth, there is a lot happening right now that is preparing us for this new cycle that is beginning. We have a new season upon us. Yesterday was Equinox, as I mentioned, so the energy is shifting. We are now in Libra season. Libra is a cardinal sign. It's a cardinal energy. It always represents a change, a new direction, and also it's a masculine sign, air sign, which is again, it's about taking action. It's about being proactive, even though it's air, so it's more like the thought process. But anyway, so as I mentioned, we ended the last week, which is today, with Mars in the exact opposition to Chiron. Mars is in the sign of Libra, Chiron is in the sign of Aries. We can see the nodal influence there. So this is definitely something that is going to be relevant for the upcoming lunation going forward. So we are starting the new week with Moon in Aquarius. Moon is going to shift into Aquarius tonight. For some of us, like us here in Europe, it's going to be early morning tomorrow on Monday morning. So Moon in Aquarius, we know Moon is our inner world. In Aquarius, it's kind of like more objective, more humanitarian, a little bit more detached, aloof, but it's also, it shows us the desire for freedom and ability to be individuated, to be able to be free. So also tomorrow, Monday, the 25th, we'll have Mercury in Virgo. Mercury is now also direct in an exact trine to Jupiter, and this is a trine number 3. So the first trine between Mercury and Jupiter happened on August 10th, where both planets were direct. The second one was on September 9th, when Mercury was retrograde. Jupiter was still direct at the time of this trine, but turned retrograde later on the same day. And then tomorrow, Monday, is the last trine between the two. So again, we can see how all this pattern of the triple aspects that been going on between Mercury and some planets, and also Venus. We know Venus has this going on between Jupiter, Chiron, and Uranus, and herself, of course, and she's also the ruler of Uranus and Jupiter. And this is actually something that just happened a few days ago for us. Again, this last square between Venus and Jupiter, and the last square between Venus and Uranus is actually going to happen on this full moon in Aries. So we can see all these things are culminating also, all these triplets of the aspects between two planets. As I mentioned, tomorrow is the last one between Mercury and Jupiter. Now, Mercury is how we identify reality. It's our function to gather information and to also understand that there is always a choice, that there is this multidimensionality experience that is available to us, which we can choose from. Now, Jupiter, and also Mercury is in Virgo, which is a mutable sign. Jupiter is currently retrograde, so Jupiter is going over things, over our belief systems, and helping us to understand that how do we perceive reality of the world we live in, and why? Why do we perceive it this way? What is the truth? Is this still my truth? And all this kind of process, because Jupiter is ruled by Venus. Jupiter is in the sign of Taurus until May next year, and Venus was recently retrograde. Now Venus is in direct, so full stream ahead for Venus. And there is this influence on that where Jupiter is re-evaluating thing. Now Mercury already had re-evaluated thing, and there is the third trine between the two. So there is an exchange of information with regards to, is this what Mercury figured out and passed on to Jupiter? Like, this is going to help Jupiter decide in this process. It's supporting Jupiter in this process of re-evaluation and rethinking. Well, Jupiter is deeper than that, because Jupiter is the perception of the reality, and it's the expansive planet. So Jupiter is not helping us to integrate that which Mercury has learned into this process of seeing maybe truth, or maybe asking questions with regards to how we perceive reality, and what is the truth, and what is the truth for you, because it's in Taurus, it's in a sign that is very close to our heart, that what matters to you, what about your relationship, what about your needs and values. So this is all going on. So this being a positive harmonious aspect, whatever Mercury is passing on to Jupiter is a supporting act in this process of Jupiter retrograde, which will continue until the end of the year, because Jupiter will station direct either on the 30th or 31st of December, depending where you are in the world. But all in all, this Jupiter will continue its retrograde until the end of the year. So as I mentioned, this is a positive start of the week, because it's definitely helping us to question think, and it's helping us to perhaps gain a different light, different point of view, even though we're still reevaluating with regards to our belief system and when it comes to what do you believe because of what matters to you. Then there is nothing much happening on Tuesday, I believe. Of course, Moon is making a lot of aspects, from Aquarius, but I'm not going to go into that because it would make this video too long. We also Tuesday the 26th, we're going to have the last crescent, the last one before the full moon. So that's like gibbous, right? It's a vaccine gibbous. I think that's what it's called. Vaccine gibbous. Yes. So that's what's going on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, Moon is going to move into the sign of Pisces. Also on Wednesday, there is going to be a Venus conjunction to Juno. But as I mentioned previously, I don't work with asteroids, but this is a very this could be positive or negative, depends how you look at it, because conjunction is always an opportunity for old cycle to end and new cycle to begin. And we know that Juno is obviously about relationships, and Venus in Leo is helping us to understand, well, what do you want? Because this is all about your purpose. It's about a sense of who you are and your authenticity. So anyway, so that's Wednesday. Thursday, again, Moon is making a lot of aspects from the sign of Pisces, but there is no major aspect taking place. And then, the one thing I do mention is that Moon in Pisces will be making sextile to Pluto. And I want to pay attention to this because, of course, everything is about Pluto. And Moon is in the sign of Pisces, which is the endings. Pluto, we know, is still retrograde in Capricorn, ending its stint of the 15 years transit, even though it is going to be retrograde into Capricorn once more next year, which I keep reminding everyone. Pluto is not quite done with Capricorn just yet for another year. So there is this sextile. So again, whatever is taking place this week is supporting us. Just as just to quickly go back to what was happening last week. I don't want to main the aspects again. I talk about this plenty, but whatever was taking place for you in your life this past week that just ended today, has been. It's a supportive process with regards to where we heading, because we had the new moon in Virgo last. And there was this beautiful kite, that the fourth time is going to be present for this full moon in Aries that's coming up. And also this ground earth trine. So it's this opportunity for actually grounding this energy and taking it back to earth. Like what it is that we're learning and how we can put it into practice. Because also, as I've been sharing in my personal shares videos, the practical application of astrology, it's all good to know all these things and be wise and be trained in all the spiritual tools and everything. But then when universe tests us and it gives us the opportunity of the practical application, and then there is no judgment because I'm in the same situation, but we not always use these tools. We still like go back to the default program and maybe make the same choice, or maybe make the same stand with the same judgment. So what I'm trying to say then, with this Virgo new moon that took place last, there was a seeding of a new energy under the influence of this grand Earth trine, this kite, which was obviously the lunation in opposition with Neptune, which again I spoke about already, which is the opportunity. How are we going to integrate this energy? Are we going to look at it from the highest spiritual, meaningful point of view, or are we going to keep lying to ourselves, deception, lies, wanting to escape, wanting to play the victimhood mentality, all this kind of thing? And again, there is no judgment. I'm just presenting different scenarios, how these energies are playing out for us. So now building up towards this full moon in Aries, because all these aspects that were taking place during the Virgo new moon became exact afterwards last week. Some of them before the lunation, but a lot of them became exact this week as the week is ending. And now we have this last closing, the last third hit of the same aspect, also all happening before this full moon in Aries. Then just before the full moon in Aries, we have moon sextile in Pluto, which is obviously, and actually, you know, in essence, Pluto still will be playing a role because this full moon is happening on 6 degrees. So Pluto is still impacting it, even though it's out of sign aspects that it's making. But anyway, going back to this moon culminating in the sign of Pisces, sextile in Pluto in Capricorn, this is again a very positive influence, because moon is obviously ahead of Pisces is ahead of Capricorn, so that is what we call the waxing crescent. So we're gaining some information, we're gaining some understanding, we're gaining some more ideas. So then that brings us to Friday, when moon, actually depends where you are in the world. For all of you guys across Atlantic, moon will transit into the sign of Aries on Thursday night. For us here in Europe, it will be Friday early morning. But for all of us, the lunation will take place on Friday 29th. This is the full moon in Aries on 6 degrees of Aries, exact 6 degrees. And also on the same day, later on the same day, we'll have the exact square. The exact square between Venus and Uranus. And Venus, as we know, is the ruler of Uranus, because Uranus is in the sign of Taurus, as it has been since 2018, and it will remain there until 2026. So just to again recap the previous squares, the first one happened on July the 2nd. Both planets were direct. The second one on August 9th. At that time, Venus was already retrograde. Uranus was still direct, because Uranus didn't station the retrograde until the end of August. And then this is the last one, and Uranus is still retrograde, and Uranus will be retrograde until January. Is the last planet that's going to station direct out of the lot we have retrograde at the moment. And Venus is now direct, so this is the last square, which is again telling us something has to change. There is a need for adjustment. This is the first quarter square, so that's the crisis in action. Something needs to be changed, because now Venus knows what she didn't know before, and this is all to do with who you want to be, who you want to become, who is your authentic self, but also this like why we perhaps are afraid to be vulnerable enough for people to see who we truly are. Like, where is this wounding? Again, you know, with the Venus trine to Chiron, which actually took place yesterday at the time of me recording this, during the Equinox, right after actually, but it took place on the day of Equinox. There is again the triplet, the last third one, the trine between Venus and Chiron. And Chiron is the wounded healer, which is, again, you know, I keep repeating myself, which is telling us that there is this new cycle available to us and it's imminent. This is where we're going. But in order to create a new reality, we need a new personality, right? Like Dr. Joe Dispenza keeps saying. And this is it. You know, with Venus now going direct after her retrograde in Leo, she is helping us to understand, why do I not allow myself to be authentic, maybe, or dream my dreams that I had when I was a child? Because why? Because somebody said so? Because Jupiter squaring, you know, Venus squaring Jupiter. Jupiter is in Taurus. what were we being said when we were children, and in order to survive, in order for self-perseverance, because child only has two needs, and that's the need for attachment, which creates a possibility for survival, or need for authenticity. And this is the work of Dr. Gabor Mate, which is a very, very profound work, and I highly recommend people to check it out. And everybody, well, children will choose the need for survival because that's what happens, because that's how we program. They're not gonna go like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be myself no matter what, no matter if you like me as a child, I don't care what you think. Of course not, because they want to be loved, they want to be accepted by their environment, by their mother especially, which is the square between Mars and Cancer. Like there is this need for safety. So anyway, guys, so going back to this trine that just took place, the last one between Venus and Chiron, and then subsequently on just after the full moon in Aries, we're gonna have the last square to Uranus. This is all again evoking the opportunity for questioning, to feeling into things that where maybe we are not living our best authentic life, whatever, because of what we are afraid of. Again, this Pluto in Capricorn, like where is the authority? Where did we externalize our power and decided that somebody else knew you and your life and what you should not want, need, believe, or whatever, go after better than you. So now Venus is direct in Leo, is saying, no, actually I know what I want, I know who I am. She's trying in Chiron, saying, Chiron, I get you, I know exactly what you're doing over there, and this is what needs to be done. Now Mars is going to be, today Mars is opposing Chiron, and Mars has gone through this Virgo thing, this learning, adjusting, touching everything that Sun is now illuminating, and now Mars is in a closing phase to South Node, ruled by Venus. There is no coincidence that all this is happening simultaneously, because Mars is closing the cycle of this, how we have been relating to one another, and is this still working for us, and is this still supporting us in this process going forward, and what we want to, like where we going evolutionary wise, whether we like it or not, whether it's what everybody wants or not, it's happening. So it's interesting that this last square is happening right after the full moon. So as I mentioned, it's the third one of the three, and it's kicking the punch. It's on 22 degrees 40 minutes, which comes to number 8, which is the Saturn number. It's the number of power, really. So I'll get back to the full moon, of course, but let me just end the week. So Saturday 30th, we're going to have Mercury trine to Uranus, which is very interesting again, because actually we were already talking about Mercury in trine to Uranus before Mercury station retrograde, but I remember myself saying that Mercury has not had its exact trine to Uranus, because Mercury station retrograde on like 21 degrees and some change, and Uranus obviously started retrograde after Mercury, so Uranus was ahead of Mercury in Taurus, so they didn't have the exact trine. They were close, and obviously this closeness has been active for all that time because of the degree that we allow for trines, but it hasn't happened exactly. And the exact trine between Uranus and Mercury, it's happening on Saturday the 30th, which is next Saturday, which again I find is interesting, because now it's this moving forward energy, it's this new energy, even though yes, all the outer planets are still retrograde, but these are like impacting us on a higher scale. They are like they're impacting us as a collective. Our everyday reality is impacted by the personal planets, the luminaries, Sun and the Moon, and of course Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And then the rest of the planets, they impacting us in a different way. So now all the personal planets are direct, as I already spoke about, and now I really feel with this equinox shifting the energy and us going more into the masculine, into the yang expression of the planetary energy, with this trine that is happening, the square between Venus and Uranus, the number 3 after the lunation, and it's again Aries, it's fire, and it's a full moon. So, there's again like integration process, like what we're gonna do now that you cannot unknow, now you have to do something about it. And then this trine between Mercury and Uranus, again Uranus, we have 2 aspects to Uranus 2 days in a row. One is from Venus as the ruler, and one is from Mercury. And we know that this dancing between Mercury and Uranus has been going on for a while now. And Mercury is in his rulership, in his traditional sign of exaltation. Actually, Mercury modernly exalts in Aquarius, so ruled by Uranus. So this is, like I said, this is a very positive aspect, because it's again helping us to maybe see things from a new perspective, like to understand that there are all these multiple options, there is all these multidimensional realities we are experiencing simultaneously. And with this Uranus being in Taurus and now going retrograde, it's helping us to kind of crack us open and go think beyond. But in order to get there, we need to see what is holding us back. So it's like with this Taurus thing, our attachment, our stubbornness, our fixation to something which we thought like, oh, this is comfortable, why change it? It's comfortable, But now Mercury going through again everything that Mars had touched. And during, like, again, when Mars became the ruler of the North Node, he was in Virgo. So now Mercury and Sun gone through the entire territory. Well, Mars is still in Virgo, that Mars had touched, and are illuminating that and are making us to think about that. Like with this Virgo is this energy of healer, but it's also energy of competency. That, okay, how can I become more in charge of my life? Because as I mentioned again previously, Virgo is trine in Capricorn. So, Sun just made its trine to Pluto this week. Well, this week, the week of me recording this on Thursday, that's what happened. So this is all positive aspects. They are being passed on between these personal planets and the big players. The personal planets have done the job, Mercury went retrograde, now is direct. Venus went retrograde, now she's direct. Mars had not gone retrograde. Mars is busy, as I keep saying. Mars is the ruler of the North Node, doesn't have time to go retrograde. But they passing on this information to these big boys that are retrograde, that are helping us on a collective level to shift everything. Like everything is shifting, and this is what I've been tapping about into for so long, saying that nothing seemed, maybe not much is changing in your day-by-day life, just looking at your life, still things has to be done, the chop wood, carry water thing, but everything is shifting, everything is changing, and there is no going back, there is only going forward. And I feel that with this Mercury trine into Uranus, it's a very supportive energy that is helping us to accept that, okay, well, there's no going back. So what can we learn, what can we do, what can we adjust in order to feel in charge, in order to feel competent, so we can go forward, so we can allow ourselves to be ourselves, to need what we need, to be true to ourselves, to be authentic, to be free, all these other things that are happening and playing out at the same time. And then on Sunday there is Moon moving obviously into the sign of Taurus, and then it's just Sun conjuncting, I think it's Pallas at 10, right? But again, the asteroids I don't work with. So that's what we're gonna end the week with. Actually, it will be October 1st on Sunday next week, and then we'll have tons of aspects happening the following week, which are all present in this full moon in Aries, so I'm gonna mention them. But there is a lot. October is packed. It's packed with us. Now September, as we were saying, it's been very quiet. It's been very quiet, in between lunation. Like this week we had all these, after effects of Virgo new moon, where the aspects were becoming exact, but it's been fairly quiet. Not that much was happening. But next month, now starting October, now already in Libra season, already Equinox took place and all that stuff. And now the first lunation that's gonna be happening is a full moon in Aries. Everything is shifting. We're gonna have 3 personal planets changing sign. Actually, as I mentioned previously, Mercury will change signs twice in the month of October. Pluto will station direct. October is super, super busy. And of course, eclipses. So now if we moved into this, if we move to the full moon in Aries interpretation, because this is the first lunation after equinox, and this is the last lunation before the eclipses, because the next moon that's going to happen after this full moon in Aries will be the solar eclipse, the first eclipse in the sign of Libra. But obviously I'm not going to talk about that here. So now if we focus on the full moon in Aries, so again I would like to remind people, if probably everybody knows, everybody remembers, but in case that they don't, the new moon in Aries number 2, because we had 2 of them. We had the first one that took place in March. I think it was March 20th on 21st, depending again where you were in the world, which happened on 0 degrees. The second new moon in Aries, which is what messed everything up for the lunations, because we had 2 new moons in Aries, so everything moved because of that. So the second new moon in Aries was actually the hybrid solar eclipse, because we still had the last eclipse in Scorpio in May. So the first one in Aries already took place. There was no eclipse in Taurus. That's going to be taking place now in October. October 28th, we'll have the last eclipse in Taurus. But in April 19th, April 20th, depending again where you were in the world, for most people it took place on April 20th. For me, at the time in Mexico, it was still April 19th, just before midnight. Either way, this eclipse took place on 29 degrees and 50 minutes. And now we're having a full moon in Aries, but it's not an eclipse. It's just a full moon, even though, as usual, Mars is, and Aries is going to kick a punch. It's not going to be just any new moon, full moon. But yeah, this is very interesting, because it's important to remember that a lot of things got concepted, seeded, and activated during springtime. And then, of course, things shifted for us on the new moon in Cancer, which is again, it was a cardinal sign. It was the solstice, and that was the day on the July 17th. That was the day when the nodes shifted, and that's when Mars had become the ruler of the North Node. So this is very important to pay attention to. So yeah, new moon in Aries took place on April 20th for most of us, 29 degrees 50 minutes. Literally, sun moved into the sign of Taurus, like I think it was a couple of hours or something like that after. Now, full moon in Aries, we are going to experience, well, of course, it's as, and again, so the new moon in Aries, 29 degrees, full moon in Aries, 29th of September. So isn't this interesting, right? 29, number 11, master number frequency. So the full moon in Aries is happening on 6 degrees of Aries, obviously. At the time of this lunation taking place, I will be actually back in England, in my second home, where I spent half of my life, 19 years. And in the UK time, it will be taking place at 10 o'clock and 57 minutes. And that's in the morning, 10:57 a.m. UK time. So depending where you are in the world, obviously for you guys across the Atlantic, it will be shortly after midnight, still 29th. It will be 29th, I believe, probably for everybody in the whole world, 29th of September. And actually, on the same day, yes, as I mentioned, we'll have the square between Venus and Uranus, so that will definitely be taking place too. But the other aspects that will be taking place, which will not be exact, they will not be exact on the day of that lunation, but active. And also, once again, I want to remind everyone that the kite is still present. This is the last lunation, the number 4, for which the kite in the sky is present, and that is made up of the Grand Earth Trine. In this case, it's between Pluto, Uranus, and Mercury, because now Mercury is direct. Actually, it's closer between Mercury and Uranus because of this exact trine that is just taking place this week, right? Well, actually, the exact trine is going to take place the next day, right? On Saturday. So we have the lunation taking place on Friday the 29th, and then the exact trine between Mercury and Uranus is taking place the day after. So this is the Grand Earth Trine still present. Mercury is in the same place, almost exactly in the same place as Sun and Moon were during the new moon in Virgo. And this is how we know that this is a continuation. This is a continuation of what is changing, what is shifting for us. And we will see more information, we will have more clarity in, well, for Virgo, full moon, it will be February, and then of course the next eclipse season, which the full moon, the new moon eclipse, solar eclipse of 2024 will be on April 8th, and I know that because that's the day when Jupiter is going to conjunct my North Node, so I remember the date very well. So anyway, going back to this lunation, so we have this Grand Earth Trine still present. There is still an opposition between Neptune and Mercury, which is what it's creating the kite. So Mercury is in the place of where Sun and the Moon were during the new moon in Virgo, only 1 degree off. And apart from that, we have other things happening. So as I mentioned, the same day we have the exact square between Venus and Uranus. This is the first quarter square, the crisis in action, and action has to be taken. Sun is the ruler of Venus, and actually Venus is the ruler of the Sun. They have what we call mutual reception, so they're supporting each other because Sun is currently in the sign of Libra, ruled by Venus, but this is a different energy from Venus, like if Sun was in Taurus, because Taurus is a yin energy, it's a receptive energy. Now Libra, the Lady Justice, it's a masculine energy. It's like action has to be taken. So there is this square taking place. Then also we'll have, this is not for a long time yet, but by the degree you can say that Sun is, going to have the square with Pluto, but that's not until the end of the month. But we'll have a Mars building into the square with Pluto, and this is already active because it's only like 6 degrees away. And the exact square between Mars and Pluto will be taking place on October 9th. And what's interesting about this date is that that's the day Venus will move from Leo into Virgo. So the square between Mars and Pluto already active, and this is the crisis in consciousness. So this is the closing square, the waning square, right? So again, there is this need for shifting our perception, for shifting something. And as I previously mentioned in this video, Mars is in a closing phase to the South Node ruled by Venus. Venus is the ruler of Sun at the moment, and Sun is also in a closing phase to South Node. Sun will have a conjunction, I think, on the 18th of October. Yes. Sun and South Node conjunction will happen exactly on the 18th of October, and Sun and Mars conjunction will happen on the 18th of November, but not until Sun is in Scorpio. So anyway, so there is this closing thing going on one side, and then on the other side we have Chiron, even though Chiron is not exactly affecting this lunation because there is 12 degrees between them, so it's quite wide, but it's still within the same sign. So they're still in the same room, you can say. So Chiron is in a closing phase with the North Node, as we know, and the exact conjunction between them two will be taking place on February 19th, 2024. So this will be the exact. So we can see something is ending there as well, because now this is a full moon. So we had a new moon, which was the solar eclipse, which was potent in its intensity because it's like new moon, solar eclipse. It's like new moon on steroids, right? But it's also it's like divinely orchestrated. It's divinely guided, because if we get off our track, like when we drive GPS and stuff, then eclipses are usually when the universe tries to kind of course correct for us. So that was the new moon in Aries, and now something is being illuminated, something that got seeded during this new moon in Aries. This was the first one of the 18 months period while these lunations will be taking place between Libra and Aries. Now we're getting more clarity. We're gaining more clarity on September 29th. On September 29th, which is the 11, then there's 9, so 11 and 9, and then we are in the year 7, so that's 9, 11, 9, that's 20, 27, that's number 9, isn't it? Number 9. If I'm counting it correctly, quickly in my head, I think is the number 9, which is again culmination. So, okay, what else is happening? So we have moon, it's 10 degrees away from Neptune, different signs. So this is a new phase either way. So there is something new being birthed. Something is becoming illuminated. Illuminated. We have more clarity, and something is an opportunity for something new to begin. Moon is in the sign of Aries, Aries, it's a new cycle. So based on this, which we now had learned, because Sun was in the sign of Virgo for a month, and it touched everything that Mars had touched before. A lot of things became clearer to us, especially since Mercury stationed direct, and I've been sharing this a lot in my personal shares video, which I know that is not really relevant to everyone and might not resonate, but this is what's been coming up for me, that I've been here staying with my parents for 3.5 weeks. Obviously, by the time that this lunation takes place, I will have been here for 4 weeks, but I will be already in England by that point. And there are a lot of things that shifted, like same stories, same circumstances, but I see a lot of things differently, and I feel that this is what's happening for people as well, that a lot of things are coming around for us. It's like round and around, like with the Nautilus shell. So things are coming around and around, and we have the opportunity to make a different choice, to see things differently, to learn the lesson. So then it doesn't feel like we have to do it again. We don't have, or if we do experience it again, it doesn't feel the same way. It doesn't feel like it's such a big deal, or it doesn't create the same level of resistance in us and stuff like that. So I really feel with this full moon in Aries, a lot of things are becoming clearer to us with regards to where we're going, or what we need to do, what it looks like. Also with the Mars in a closing phase with the South Node, and Chiron in a closing phase with the North Node, and both Chiron and North Node are being ruled by Mars, and Mars currently being ruled by Venus, and Venus is ruling the Sun. This is all piling up on the top of each other, which is saying that in essence, it is about you, and it's about the relationships that we form. It's about the whole society, and is there a justice in the world? And if there isn't, why is that? Because, as what's been coming up again, like what I shared in my video yesterday, which might have been triggering to some people, that is the same old story, because there is nothing new under the sun, and it's the opportunity to maybe make a different choice. Perhaps not to be the first one to throw a rock at someone else. Perhaps, because with the Libra is the justice, and it's kind of still speaks to me as a judgment too. And it's this opportunity that, okay, like, who am I to judge? And is there really a justice? Is this really fair, for us, for anyone to judge someone else or something, or even to judge ourselves? Because of course this is in opposition with Neptune, which is again this opportunity for compassion, forgiveness, and that has to start with each and every single one of us, because if we don't feel this compassion, forgiveness, and love for ourselves, it's very hard to feel it for someone else. So I don't know, but this is the energy I'm tapping into here. Of course, we still have this Jupiter in closing phase with Uranus, as I mentioned a million times. The exact conjunction will be happening on April 20th. And what else is going on here? Saturn, of course, in the closing phase with Neptune, but now Saturn is retrograding all the way to the beginning of Pisces. It's gone all the way back. It's already on 1 degree. It's going to carry on for a bit longer until it's stationed direct. I think it's like the end of October, or actually no, it's going to be November, because it's only Pluto station in direct in October. And yes, so we have all these things going on, but in essence, it's a continuation, build up of the same story, but now under different energies, which is predominantly an opportunity to do things differently, to go in a different direction. To me, it feels like in one end is this grand closing of old cycles. So things are coming around, round and around, round and around, whether it's in your personal life or in a collective consciousness, for us to see the things again, reevaluate things, and potentially take a different learning from the different lesson, integrate a different lesson, and make a different choice. So then it's like being in a fork in a road and having the opportunity to take a different choice. And that choice is going to take us somewhere, like there is no right and wrong, because everything is a lesson, everything is an opportunity for learning, and it gives us an experience. But I feel, because this is Aries and Libra, these axes are always about relationships. And just the fact that Mars is in a closing phase with South Node, and Chiron in a closing phase with North Node, that Mars is the ruler of, and Venus is just about to move into the sign of Virgo, but she's actually squaring Uranus, and Uranus, as we know, is going to be the ruler of Pluto for 20 years when Pluto moves into the sign of Aquarius. This is huge. Because it's literally telling us that there is a completely new story that needs to be written with regards to how we relate as a human race, how to relate to one another. And I really feel that there is so much deeper meaning, so much deeper teaching in this lunation, because there is a necessity for something completely different to take place. Because the way, even like, as we can just look at our ancestors, and then, then the things that are passed on, like how we do things, how they did things. And there are a lot of things which you obviously have a value. They serve a purpose, you know, they are the right thing, being a good person, you know, being, you know, moral, ethically good person and all these kind of things, like don't hurt other people and all that kind of stuff. However, there are a lot of things that we are holding on to that are just not supporting us anymore, even though, okay, yeah, it's been done like that for a long time. It's just like, to me, like I said, I don't want to go back into the same rant, and I talk about it in my previous video in the personal share, but it's just like, it's just so like fascinating to me that I'm sure that if you remember like the times of, I mean, remember not being personally there, but what we were being told about these gladiators and stuff, how they've been like all these fights and all this, or even like this prosecution when they were chopping people's head on the main square or hanging people on the gate of the cities and all this kind of stuff that took place, you know, and we look at it and we think like, oh, that was such a barbaric gesture, and you know, that should have never happened, and it was like unhuman and stuff. But in a sense, the same thing is happening now. It's just maybe they're not hanging people in front of the city gate, but it's the same thing happening now. We're just using different tools. The Aries, no, not the Aries, the airy tools, you know, the Aquarian tools, you know, the internet, the social media, you know, the whatever. So I'm like, how much did we really change, you know? And it's, again, it's not judgment, it's just a questioning. It's an opportunity for questioning, because with Venus squaring the Uranus, and Venus being the ruler of Uranus, and Venus being in Leo, like in each and every single one of us, there is this innocence, you know, there is this inner child, there is this aspect of ourselves which, in a sense, got, you know, it got hurt. It got hurt in the process of growing up, because there were so many. It's like my teacher calls it, Simon Wurster from Raising the Vibration. He calls it that it's the loss of innocence, that the innocence was lost because we had to wake up to actually, you know, the world, that is not just, you know, all us being, you know, children and can do what we want and stuff, but in reality there has to be a balance between the two. It's not just like, okay, you are just a child for like, what is acceptable, actually, societal acceptable? How long are we allowed to be children and make mistakes? Because even when you are a teenager, and then when you are 18, which you are in no way adult when you are 18, I mean, until we have first Saturn return, when you like at your late 20s, early 30s, we don't really understand life. You know, we don't really understand many things, because we have to have the experience. That's what has to happen. We have to have the experience, the Virgo. We need to have the process of falling and picking ourselves up and learning again. So how long are we really allowed, like societally correct, you know, without judgment, to make a mistake? Because then we get to the point where we are like expected to be perfect and not to make a mistake, because otherwise we'll be judged and prosecuted and burned on the stake, right? Whatever. And yeah, I feel this is what has to change. Because it's this, like, in most cases, we are our own worst inner critic and saboteur, right? When we cause all this suffering within ourselves because of all these expectations that we have been projected onto us by someone else, and then we keep projecting them onto ourselves. So that's what I don't know why I just got into this, because it's obviously it's more of my personal share than and practical application than astrology in overall. But this is really what I feel wants to come through, what I'm really tapping into with this lunation, because it's Aries and Libra, and it's all about relationships, and Mars is in the sign of Libra, which is about relationship in the closing phase to South Node, which is the resolution node to Pluto squaring the nodes from the sign of Capricorn. And this is all about relationships, but it's not just about relationships of you know, yeah, what about my husband or something. This goes so much deeper and so much bigger, because Jupiter is in the sign of Taurus, ruled by Venus. There was a last square between Jupiter and Venus that took place last week. And yeah, and this is like making us to question everything. Like, what is actually my relationship to everything, including myself? Because that's where it all begins. It all starts with you. All your reality is created by you based on what do you feel, believe, think, value, all these kind of things, right? So I really feel that this is such an important thing to observe at the moment, and hopefully put into practice, where with the Aries energy, full moon in Aries, which is the illumination of the energy that got seeded in springtime, we always have a choice to make a different decision. We always have the opportunity, the free will to make a different choice, to act differently, to act to someone differently. Because also with the Virgo thing and all this life experience that we have, we haven't been maybe exactly in the same place, walking the same path in the same shoes, but the older we get, the more we can relate to one another, because we feel that, okay, I know what that felt like for me. Maybe I didn't have the same experience. Maybe I wasn't being a celebrity or an entrepreneur or an influencer being crucified in social media, but we all been in the similar situation where we felt something similar. So this is what I feel is more going on at the moment with this full moon, where there is a point of illumination, like aha moment, because the Virgo season already took place, and I'm sure for a lot of us that that was a humbling month when we were being reminded of, like, where am I not perfect, but do I need to be perfect? But okay, where can I make adjustments? What can I do, right? To feel more in charge of my life, to actually take care of this child within me without being critical and judgmental and all that. And then I can extend all that towards someone else, because that person is doing the best they can and just having an experience just like each and every single one of us, which, yes, in the eyes of justice it might not look that way, but from the human perspective. So that's what I mean, guys. This is going so deep, and I can get lost in the rabbit holes here, because all these lunations now moving forward, especially with the nodes being in the Aries Libra axis, everything that's happening external of us is taking us back to you. Because with the North Node in Aries, it's the path of self-discovery. It's the path of recognizing where it all began, the Fool's journey. And with the Chiron being there, and the conjunction between Chiron and North Node coming near, day by day, month by month, until they do meet in February next year, just before the full moon in Virgo, actually, because that will happen right after. This is the process. I feel this is the process, and I'm sometimes really struggling to put all these downloads which are streaming through so fast, because it's like, talk about this, and I'm like, I'm trying to conceptualize it and put it in some kind of context that makes sense to people, and not also getting too far from what I'm talking about here. But what I'm trying to put across this message, that this is so huge, because there is something happening on the external, on the macrocosm, with the society, what's going on here, right now, with the world, with these people that we can see, that are just a reflection of us in one way or another, because they're the same human, they're made of the same material, they have the same, basic essential human needs, and they just having their own journey, and we have the opportunity, through observing somebody else's experience, to then compare potentially judge, if that's what we choose to do, but also to try to understand and maybe make some changes in our judgments, in our, with the Libra, in our justice, how we consider this human interaction and experiences, and all these kind of things. So anyway, so just to go back into astrology from my deep dive into different directions, as I started saying, the conjunction between Chiron and North Node, which is very relevant, even though you might say what it has to do with the with the full moon in Aries, but the fact that they all ruled by Mars, and Mars is in the closing phase with South Node, which means that Mars is in the opposition with North Node. Okay, that's what it has to do with that. Because it's all this Aries energy. It's like, it's hugely impactful, because the North Node, which is the evolutionary potential, the focus, it's on Aries. And so the exact opposition. So Mercury is already coming into opposition with Neptune. Well, they're 6 degrees apart at the time of this lunation, and the exact opposition between Mercury and Neptune will happen on 2nd of October. And again, Mercury will be in the position where, Sun was, because we had the Sun Neptune opposition only this week, and also today we having also Mars oppose Neptune, in August. So this is again, opportunity to maybe identify the situation differently from the multidimensional perspective. There are always different choices we can use to see it in a different way, which then we can discern in a different way, which then will help us towards this new, which we want to create. Because if we don't change anything, nothing will change, right? Like just the same way as we still keep doing the same thing our ancestors were doing, positive or negative, unconsciously, if we don't change nothing, nothing will change. So our attitude, our approach towards one another, towards society as a whole, which is not about, oh, I haven't done it, I'm not doing that, it's not my fault, but it's a reflection of all of us because we are a human collective. So everything is a reflection of us as a human collective, because even the extraterrestrials, they don't go and introduce themselves like, hey, I'm, whatever, Mike, and I'm an Arcturian. They say we are an Arcturian collective, we are Pleiadian collective, we are Sirian collective. It's all about the collective consciousness. This is how they perceive humanity as a collective. They don't go, oh yeah, that Mila, what is she doing? Of course, then we are a unique expression of the source, but we are being perceived as a human collective, having this experience on the global level. So now with these aspects that are taking place, and especially this full moon in Aries as a full moon of the new moon, which was a solar eclipse, this is very important thing to pay attention to. So, okay, then Mercury will trine Pluto, because Mercury is already trining Pluto by, this grand Earth trine, as I said, which is part of the kite. The exact trine will take place on October 3rd. So Mercury is building up towards that, but it's already active during the lunation. Then we have Venus trining the North Node. Already, but the exact trine will happen on October 2nd, so we can see the 2nd of October will be busy. We'll have the Mercury in opposition with Neptune and Venus trine in North Node, and this, as I said, it's already supporting us because North Node is squaring Uranus, saying, hey Uranus, we need to adjust something to break ourselves free, to support us on this path of evolution in this Aquarian age, because now I know what I maybe wasn't authentic about, didn't allow myself to want or need, because maybe I felt inadequate, maybe I feel ashamed, maybe I felt that, oh, well, I'm too critical towards myself, I can't do this. But now Sun already gone through the sign of Virgo, and he said, well, okay, what can we do to shift that? What can we do to adjust that? How can we become competent? So anyway, so there is this trine between Venus and North Node already active during the time of this lunation, but it will become exact on October 2nd. Then Mars in opposition with the North Node, again, is already active because 21 degrees, 24 degrees, because like I said, Mars is going to conjunct the South Node, but that means Mars is opposing North Node. Again, a point of integration, opposition, and that is going to, the exact conjunction opposition between Mars and the nodes will happen on October 4th. Then Mars will square Pluto, because that's also already active, even though there is a 7-degree orb, 6-degree orb. Mars will square Pluto exactly on October 9th. So this is all that I'm going to talk about next week. And then Mars will move into the sign of Scorpio, the sign of its rulership, on October 12th. And as I already mentioned, Mars will conjunct Sun there, but not till October 18th. And Sun will conjunct the nodes on October 18th. So yeah, November 18 it will be Mars Sun conjunction. But anyway, all that said, and the last thing I want to mention with regards to aspect, which is very important, because we all might remember before Venus stationed retrograde, she was making in conjunction to Pluto and Neptune, and we said, because that created the Yod, the finger of God, was pointing towards Venus in Leo just before Venus went retrograde. And that was being said, Venus obviously having an in conjunction with Pluto and Neptune. Yeah, just have to make sure I'm saying the right thing. Between Venus and Pluto, and Venus and Neptune from the other direction, pointing to Venus as a Yod, finger of God. Something is karmic here. So now, then Venus went retrograde, because, everybody was already retrograde. Pluto was retrograde, Neptune was retrograde, so they were like, okay, Venus, you need to reevaluate this, because, there is a blind spot going on here, and there is still a blind spot going on here, but now Venus is direct. Now Venus knows something she didn't know before, so she's passing on the information to Pluto and Neptune from the point of knowing. Before, she didn't know. She had to go and reevaluate. So this is again supporting Pluto and Neptune in the retrograde to try to integrate this information with regards to Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. Okay, where is this structure no longer supporting us, where it no longer makes us feel safe, where do I no longer feel that I'm in charge of my life? Neptune in Pisces, where maybe I was escaping. I didn't want to take the responsibility because maybe I felt that I couldn't, because I felt maybe victim of my circumstances, or I felt that, oh well, I made this choice and now I have to stick with it forever, like this devil card, it's the choice that we made with the Lovers, and then it takes you to devil if the choice turns out maybe not to be the right thing. But it's okay, you had the experience, you can always change it, because we can just shift things, right, before the Tower moment comes. We can always change things. So it's like that, like with this blind spot, we might not know yet, we might not have the full clarity, but now Venus is making the exact in conjunction again, and it will be to Neptune on the October 4th and to Pluto on October 7th. Once again, just before she moves into Virgo on October 9th. So that's when Venus will put into practice everything she is learning. She has learned, she preached everything she had learned during retrograde, and now she's like, yeah, I know, I'm in Leo, I know, look at me, show up. So anyway, so there's gonna be all that, and Venus already is making the, exacting conjunction. Well, to Neptune there is 4 degrees, with Pluto is still 5, so not quite yet. But she's coming onto it, so let's just keep in mind this is also happening, it's building up. And so this is the thing to pay attention to. So all in all, guys, to wrap this up, because 55 minutes, Jesus. All in all, this is going to be a very, very potent, because there is a lot of fire, obviously a lot of air too. There is the square between Venus and Uranus. Again, when Uranus is involved, we had Uranus trining the new moon in Virgo. This time Uranus is not squaring it, but Uranus is squaring Venus, and Venus is the ruler of Sun. So there is an involvement there, right? So Uranus is still affecting us, directly or indirectly. Uranus is always affecting us because it's going to be the ruler of Pluto. But all that said, and it's the ruler of the South Node, which is the resolution of the skip steps, in this case Venus. So all that said, this lunation, just see what comes up for you, because it's going to be the full moon, which is the illumination, is this process of needing for integration. There is a lot of stuff happening. There is a lot of stuff still in the closing cycles, as I said, between now and the end of the year and the beginning of the next one, when all planets go direct. There is a lot of that going on still, even though the energy is shifting, because now we are in a Libra season, masculine energy. It's past Equinox now, so the energy is shifting, new direction, and we will see this. We will see this on our microcosm, our everyday individual reality, but we will also continue to see that on the microcosm, and everything is coming around, because there is nothing new under the sun, but the universe is giving us the opportunity to make a different choice, because the North Node is in Aries. We are going in a different direction, in a new direction, into unprecedented times, into unknown territory, but we are still trying to, in many cases, apply the same projection, the same judgment, the same everything, and it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work, because the universe is saying no, again, you have to go through the same exact again, because again you chose the option which is not gonna support you. No right and wrong, because we always learn something, but how long do we need to repeat the same lesson? How does it make us feel? Does these situations we are experiencing, does it make us feel good? Because if not, then perhaps it's not the one we want to keep experiencing, and for that we need to make a different choice. So this full moon in Aries is definitely giving us opportunity for that, and is the prelude to eclipses, which could be a Tower moment. Who knows, depending what choices are we making. So again, I'll leave it at that, guys, because I'm almost hour in, and this is very long, and I'm sorry for making this so long. All that said, I don't know what my release of my personal videos will be like when I'm in England next weekend, so I cannot guarantee that both videos will be coming out, or when they will be coming out. There will be definitely something coming out, but in the meanwhile, I will be releasing my collaborations with my friends that you are used to seeing by now, and stay tuned tuned for that one. I'll also keep you updated as we go along with everything. If you like my content, please do like, subscribe, share. If you find a value in it, I appreciate it. Now my website is up and running, www.moonlightsoul369.com, so you can find all my offering there. And I just want to mention, because I didn't before, shout out to Hayley at Conscious Creations, because she designed the website, and also to Dustin, who created the blueprint for it, the foundation. So I just wanted to acknowledge them. But once again, everything is out there on the net. You can find everything in my description as well. I wish you all a beautiful week, and as beautiful full moon in Aries as you want to experience for yourself. And I'll speak to you again soon. Much love, everyone. Bye for now. Bye.